How does it feel being in your sixth season? This is crazy to me.
That's insanity. It feels like only yesterday that summer of 19, that I came over from the University of Virginia, and I feel like it's gone in a flash. I think it feels like those first couple of years kind of drug a little bit, but that was also, COVID and an international pandemic, so that kind of affected a lot of things.
That puts a damper on things.
It puts a damper on a few things, but also creates some interesting challenges. And then I think I looked back now, and I'm 6 years in, and I'm like, holy cow.
I love this story. I've heard this.
Yeah, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. I knew the level of medical care because Virginia had that. But stepping into the Coach Staley world and the South Carolina women's basketball world, I don't know if I was really ready for it. And, I knew there was going to be success. I didn't know what I was stepping into.
I'm proud to be partnering with Underdog Sports, my favorite place to play fantasy games. You gotta check out Pick'em. It's so easy to play. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite or least favorite player stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile app. Sound like fun? Sign up with the promo code Liv Thompson to claim your free pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 bonus cash. Can't wait to see your entries. Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Coop, the show that celebrates the past and present sung and unsung legends of USC athletics. Today I am joined by the head athletic trainer for the USC women's basketball team, as well as a two-time national champion, my good friend, people love him, injuries fear him, Craig Oates. Hello, Craig. Welcome.
Hi, Liv. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm lovely.
Thank you for being on today.
You're welcome.
How does it feel being in your sixth season? This is crazy to me.
That's insanity. It feels like only yesterday that summer of 19, that I came over from the University of Virginia, and I feel like it's gone in a flash. I think it feels like those first couple of years kind of drug a little bit, but that was also, COVID and an international pandemic, so that kind of affected a lot of things.
That puts a damper on things.
It puts a damper on a few things, but also creates some interesting challenges. And then I think I looked back now, and I'm 6 years in, and I'm like, holy cow.
I know. It really is crazy. Even for me being 2 years removed from, that sounds crazy to me, saying that I'm 2 years removed from it.
You're old, you're a NARP now.
Oh my God. You can't. I'll never be a NARP, no matter what, no matter my.
Oh, come on. When's the last time you shot a basketball?
We don't need to talk about that. I'm a busy girl. I got to find the time for these things. But you're right. I guess that qualifies as me one now. But it's so crazy that we started together. That's just something really special to me, that we started together. But how have you seen yourself grow throughout these 6 years being at USC?
I think it's interesting. I think, as a professional, you want to tell yourself that you're constantly growing and evolving, and I think you have to have people and situations around you to push you to evolve and grow. And I think I've been lucky that I have that. Your former guest, Molly Benetti, has been probably prime candidate number one to help push me and make me better, and that's kind of part of our relationship, is challenging each other and making sure that we're both doing everything we can to optimally take care of you all, the student athlete. So I think that's helped me grow as a professional, continuing to do different continuing educations, courses, things like that, reading the most updated literature. But I think a lot of it for my profession is unique in that with the current social media trends and everything kind of being online, you get a lot of these like TikTok doctors and social media physical therapists or ATs that will come out and you have to siphon through a lot of that stuff. And as well, like I can't tell you how many times in a week I get a text, or one of the players is like, well, I saw this on TikTok, and I get all these bruises. I think I have cancer because TikTok told me I have cancer.
Right, WebMD will do that every time.
And so it's like you have to, one, be able to siphon through the stuff that is just it's just not right. It's not correct. It's not accurate. But there is a lot of value in that. There's so much information out there now that you can find things and connect with people and do things that and learn about things that otherwise you would have never seen when I started the profession eons ago.
Yeah. So. Exactly. I wanted to pull from that, like you said, you were talking about how players, see all these things on TikTok, and you mentioned you're furthering your education. What steps are you taking to do that?
So it just depends on the time of year. Like, try to go to as many conferences that are very sports specific. So in the past with athletic trainers, that we have a national conference every year in like the second or third week of June. That's normally, in Orlando and Vegas and Phoenix or whatever. And there's a lot of good information and stuff that comes out of that, but it's very broad spectrum. And a lot of times it's research based because there's a lot of academic folks, PhDs and people that present their research there, and it's all valuable. But for me as a clinician, specifically in basketball, it benefits me to find more basketball content, but also people who are in the same trenches with me and can do that. So like this past summer, Molly spoke at a basketball specific rehab conference in Las Vegas, at Summer League. And so a lot of the presenters besides Molly were dual credentialed athletic trainers, physical therapists who work with NBA teams, or certified, sport performance strength and conditioning people like Molly who work with either professional, NBA teams, WNBA teams, or overseas work with. We even I think heard some talks from people that work with like Premier League clubs or rugby clubs and things like that. And so it's just getting different perspective, and they bring their views and their thoughts on a certain topic. And bring it to the table, and I don't think it ever gives us like wholesale changes in how I approach things, but you take your little tidbits and useful things that can be valuable to you, and being able to take that with you. And there's other courses. So like talking about the TikTok, the value of some of the social media stuff is there's a group out there that I was following social media wise just to kind of pick up little tidbits, and they we ended up bringing them on campus here a couple of years ago and doing a course with a bunch of our staff that really benefited us in terms of our evaluation and rehab with foot and ankle and things like that. And it's just, again, that's the stuff I see daily. I mean, how many ankle sprains, how many, foot issues that you see in basketball. And so it's valuable to continue to find those little tidbits and those little, like what we call clinical pearls to be able to take with us, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any new information or those tidbits that you talked about that you're specifically bringing into this season?
Into this season, no. I think Molly and I have had conversations about transitioning some of our recovery trends away from the traditional cold. And Laura, this is going to be like the breakout video, but early in my years as a professional, it was ice everything or ice bath or do this, always cold therapy, cryotherapy kind of things. And it has its value, it has its place, but there is research out there that is coming out and is coming more to the forefront that it doesn't help as much with the recovery aspect as we think it does. Obviously, acute injury, you go sprain your ankle and it's the size of a melon, grapefruit. Yes, compression and ice can potentially help immediately in the pain management and the swelling management. But for the people that would come in every day and just ice bath because that's what they do and that it helped recovery, they've actually found that it actually slows some muscle development after strength training and can hinder some actual development that you want to get. So
that's interesting.
Moving away from that and into things such as like an infrared sauna, like we've put one in both the in both men's and women's basketball spaces that has allowed us an opportunity to use that form of red light and heat therapy as something unique and different that we can implement with the players. And it's just kind of, it's the constant finding like the new trend and vetting it to be whether it's something that's actually beneficial and helpful, or is it just kind of the sham snake oil salesman kind of thing?
Exactly. I'm sure it feels really good and special and also unique to be a part of a program where you can actually try these things. I feel like there's not many programs out there that are able to just, hey, like, ice bath isn't what we thought it was, let's just get a sauna. I mean, that's really cool that you're able to like apply these things that you're learning and introduce that to your team.
It does, and it's helpful that it comes normally from both from our performance team. So it comes from myself, from Molly, from Jeremy, our dietitian, sports nutrition professional, depending on what it is. And it's just, I think it's also, it speaks to the family aspect of what we are as a unit at South Carolina women's basketball. I mean, in the sense that Coach Staley has all the trust in myself and in Molly and in Jeremy to do what's best for the student athletes. So if we come and say, this is something we want because we feel like it's going to benefit them in this capacity, she knows we've already done the research, we've done our due diligence with it, and if we can make it happen, we're going to make it happen. I mean, we also have the resources across athletics to use other things from other facilities and stuff, but ultimately we'd like to have as much kind of ease of the use, like, available to us closely.
Absolutely. No, it is very fortunate to be in a position like that with a coach that has that sort of trust in everyone around her, from players to coaches to support staff. It's a very special thing. Before we talk about more about what's going on right now, I want to take it back to your early career. Normally this is when or not even your career, but when you first developed your love for sports.
Love for sports is back to growing up. Played soccer, played baseball. When I was younger, I always got the joke that I should play football. And the story I tell people is when they try to get me to come out for the middle school team and be an offensive lineman, I asked if I had to do the same running as the DBs and all the other cornerbacks and wide receivers, and they said yes. And then I said I wasn't interested.
Nope.
I was good at that point. And I was goalie growing up, so again, it was all small distance, not a lot of running. But I always loved basketball. Wasn't great at it, but I always loved being around it. So I was involved in all aspects from middle school through high school. And then when I went to the other Carolina, to UNC Chapel Hill for my undergrad, I had an opportunity to get involved in it's one of the few places in the country, and unfortunately I think it's on its way out, that has a junior varsity program, and there was an opportunity to be a JV manager and work with that program, and I took it and did it for 2 years and loved every second of it. And there came kind of a crossroads where I had to decide athletic training versus staying just purely in basketball without the sports medicine side. And the sports medicine side won. Obviously, I wanted to be an ER doc for most of my life. And then I realized two very crucial things. One, I really did not like organic chemistry in any capacity, and both levels of that broke my soul. And $250,000 in debt was not something I was particularly interested in.
Yeah, no.
And so it's actually, I have to credit my mother for finding athletic training for me, because when I was kind of at this crossroads my sophomore year, she was like, okay, well, here is this program that I found that mixes your love of sport, potentially love of basketball, and love of medicine. You should check it out. She sent me all the info for Meredith Petschauer, who was the clinical coordinator at the time. And I met with Meredith and figured out whether it was something I wanted to do, and started the observation hours, got in, and then had to spend an extra year in undergrad for it, but it was worth every bit of time and effort and money to do it.
Absolutely. So your first experience with athletic training was at UNC, or okay? Yeah.
So I was an athletic at the time that I went through. Our degree as an athletic trainer was an undergraduate degree. It has since transitioned to a master's level degree. But at the time that I went through, it was an undergrad degree. So you finished your undergrad in exercise, sports science, athletic training, finished all the coursework. You'd sit for the exam at the end of your time in undergrad there, and then if you passed the exam, you were a certified athletic trainer. So
that's pretty cool. And what team were you working for?
I worked in undergrad. You do kind of the observation where you're like a student with them. So I did my first rotations were women's lacrosse, and then my alma mater, my high school in Durham, the School of Science and Mathematics. And then I did another high school for a semester, and then men's soccer and volleyball and tennis.
Goodness, you were all over the place.
Yeah, well, they tried to. I mean, most of the programs try to get you to see a little bit of everything and get that experience.
But you always had that love for basketball. Was it basketball that you always wanted to?
I did. I always knew going into grad school. I knew I probably still wanted to do basketball, but I also wanted at that time. I thought about still being in academics. I thought about doing teaching and doing research when I went to Delaware, and I worked field hockey. I worked field hockey for 3 years, and then baseball and track. 2 for baseball, 1 for track, that while I was at Delaware. And I learned very quickly that I didn't like scientific writing, so I didn't mind doing data collection and doing the research. I hated every concept of putting it on paper. And thank God for a friend of mine from Delaware, Alan Needle. He helped me finish my master's and get me through with that. But at least there it kind of sharpened I wanted to be in sports. I wanted to do it clinically. I enjoyed it. I was good at it. I wanted to stay in sports. And then when I was finishing grad school and trying to figure out what to do job-wise, I applied to probably 50, 60 different places. I had offers at a couple of little small D2, D3s, but I kind of wanted to hold out. I foolishly at that time was like, I'll apply to Virginia Tech and I'll apply to Texas and all these places. And so I actually got my first job at Campbell University. They had a men's basketball job open that summer, and they said I wasn't qualified enough. And then a month and a half later, they had a women's basketball job opened, and somehow miraculously I was qualified enough for that one. Interesting.
Yeah,
but I'm not arguing because it was also 30 minutes from my home, so it was
that is
a perfect situation. Yeah.
That's extremely convenient. So tell me about some of your experience and memories from Campbell. What were you like back then at Campbell?
That was an interesting time. I would say those 4 years at Campbell shaped me as an athletic trainer better than pretty much most anything had, because it's your first experience with, and we had a very unique situation where all of the athletic trainers were under 30, were not married, and we're all kind of young professionals hungry to figure out what we wanted to do in the profession, how we wanted to practice. And we all kind of were in the same training room other than the football. So it created a very unique environment of we all work together. We all bounce ideas off each other. We all vent together. We all hang out together, because I don't know if you know anything about Campbell University, but the town of Buies Creek is literally the university. It's maybe a few square miles total, and that's it. As soon as you step off the campus, you're in another town. And they were, to tell you how small it was, I think my third year there, the town adjacent got a Taco Bell installed, and the line for the drive-through was around the block.
Oh my gosh.
For 4 weeks afterwards.
This was the best thing that happened to these people in a long time.
In Lillington and forever. And so, that creates a unique environment, but it also led me to I worked some women's soccer, I worked swim and dive, I worked some wrestling, I helped with baseball, I helped with, I was over track because I did cross country at the time as well. So I did cross country and then helped the GA with track. So we did everything, and we worked, 80 hours a week. It was a grind. My last year we finished our basketball season, or to set you the timeline, I would start in August with cross country. I would travel with them until basketball started. Then I'd go to basketball, go to cross country. That last year I drove myself to the cross country conference championships. And then as soon as it was done, got in the car, drove with my suit in the back, got to our basketball game, threw the suit on, and went right to I made it by the middle of the first half. It was still halves at that point. So finished the basketball season, go immediately into track, and then distance track. We had a couple of Kenyan athletes who were very, very good and who made NCAA nationals. So then took them to nationals in Eugene, Oregon, and then by the time I got back from Eugene, we had started summer workouts for basketball.
Goodness gracious. Yeah. So you were fed to the wolves. Yes.
But again, I think it made me better because absolutely you found a way.
Yeah. And the love was there. Obviously, it didn't run you off. No. You fed into that. So that's important. That's definitely important. So you were working with a lot of women at this time. You were working with women's basketball, track, a lot of female athletes. As a man, and you were young, so that helps as well. You guys are pretty close in age, so you guys have that dynamic. But as a man in your profession, when you're dealing with a lot of women, how do you go about building trust and rapport with your athletes?
It's a really good question, because it's been an interesting dynamic that I've really only worked women's sports for the most part of my career. I worked the 2 years of baseball, but again, field hockey for 3 years in grad school, and then essentially women's basketball, some other oversight, and then women's tennis at UVA as well, and then equestrian here. Honestly, there's a level of just authenticity that I am who I am. Molly would call me a softie, and Coach would probably call me a teddy bear kind of thing. And so I think that part of my personality helps as well, but it's just a level of getting to know people, show them their personality, show them that you're authentic for good or for bad, and I think that gains that trust. I mean, and for as much time as we're in the trenches together, you just kind of develop that relationship
Right.
over time. You definitely learn as a as a at this point middle-aged white man, certain conversations that are within your wheelhouse and certain ones that are just, this needs to be going to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I think that has helped over the years. Otherwise, I mean, you probably could speak to it more. It's probably just, honestly, just my personality is just, it just works for
Yeah.
it. I don't know why sometimes, but it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know Mac. I can't remember Mac's last name. I'm sorry, Mac. But your ability to create these relationships is very good, because you still have great relationships with people you've worked with since Campbell, probably since Delaware too. So that's a very special thing. I want to go back to Campbell, actually. I want to hear some of your favorite memories or a couple anecdotes from that time. Was there a time while you were at Campbell that really solidified for you that you made the right decision to become an athletic trainer? Like, you felt very aligned in your profession?
There is one. I hope she forgives me for using her name, but it's a very specific example. So when I got to Campbell in August of 2012, there was a point guard. Her name was Rayshawn Edwards, and I still talk to her to this day. You met her in Dallas. It was my point guard that came to Dallas.
Okay.
That visited. So when I got to campus, Ray walked into my office the first day. She's kind of very timid, very meek's not the right word, but timid and mild. And she introduces herself to me and is like, "I'm Rayshawn Edwards. We're going to be working a lot together. I'm coming off of my second ACL. And I just, I want to introduce myself." And that kind of started our relationship. Ray and I went through the trenches in all capacities together, rehabbing not only her knee, some other health scares and things that we dealt with, but again, she became kind of the person that I was, I guess in some capacities, I guess her person at that time to help her through a lot of stuff. And then right before her senior year, right before senior day, she hurts that knee again in practice, 2 days before. And we're trying to figure out what we can do to let her be able to participate in her senior day. And we find a way, talking to the other team, to let her come out and just take the tip off so that she at least logs minutes on her senior day. And she kind of hobbles out there, does it, and I don't know if there was a dry in the entire arena, much less myself. And those are the kind of moments that those relationships, seeing that progression of somebody over 4 years and all the things you deal with, to then come to this kind of apex moment for them as an athlete, them as a person, their senior day, all that they've done to work to this point, it not go exactly the way you want it to, but to still kind of get that reward that. Those are the moments you're just yeah, okay, it's worth it.
Absolutely. And I mean, everyone's, regardless, injury, no injury, everyone's career is kind of like that in a sense. But when you're alongside someone, watching them go through these difficulties, these rehabs, and you're there helping them get through it, that's a very special thing. You're a big part of their lives and a big part of their journey. So that's extremely special. That feels really good for you. Yeah. So after you were at Campbell, where did you go?
So I went to the University of Virginia for a few years, and I would say I learned my grind and my dedication at Campbell, and then I sharpened my skills even further at UVA. Shared an office with Ethan Saliba, who is the men's basketball athletic trainer at UVA, who's probably the smartest individual I've ever had the pleasure of working day to day with. And he just made me better clinically, and constantly questioned and constantly, asking questions. What are you learning? What are you doing? How are we getting better? And then at that same level, had the opportunity to work with, I've had them at all stops. So let me say I had them at Campbell as well. But the strength coaches, the sport performance people like Molly that I've worked with have always been there to make me better too. At Campbell, I had a gentleman named Alex Carnal, who's now with the New York Jets, and he was phenomenal. And then when I was at UVA, I had Rob Hornet, who's at Liberty now, but he's been in the G League and a few other places. And then Morgan Foster, who was kind of she was my Molly before my Molly, but that kind of synergy and that relationship we had, and how to work together to achieve the goals you want to, while you're both kind of bringing your expertise to it, and how to do it seamlessly for the athletes so that they don't feel like they're getting isolated. Like, that's kind of one of the hardest things, not to derail it, but one of the hardest things as part of the job is, okay, somebody has an injury and you want to continue to make them feel like they're part of the group.
Right.
You don't want to isolate them away. You don't want them to feel like they're not part of what's going on, especially if it's a long-term rehab. So it's taken years of kind of crafting. It's still working on it, but the ability to like figure out how to blend, okay, we need to get these rehab things done, but also you still want to be around your teammates. You still want to feel like you're part of the team and part of the group, and we can move some things into this space to make it a more enjoyable experience for you and still achieve the work we need to get done. So that I think that building that relationship at UVA was very key for me in order to learn how to work better with these other professionals that you spend day to day with. Exactly.
Yeah. I think something that a lot of people don't take into account when they look at the realm of athletic training is the amount of emotional intelligence needed to be a good athletic trainer, because of dealing with those injuries, dealing with people with specific needs. I mean, it takes a lot out of you, like you said, when you're injured and you feel distanced from your team because you're not able to participate. It takes a lot of emotional intelligence and dedication from you guys and the other professionals around you to be able to make those people still feel a part of that. So
yeah. I mean, it's we play the role, all of us do, kind of in our sport performance group. Like, we all play the role of therapists in some capacity. The training room is, for the most part, considered a pretty sacred space in terms of the athlete's ability to come in and feel like they can be themselves and open up and be honest. But it happens in the weight room a lot too. And so a lot of times there's conversations occurring between all like the support staff of, have you checked in with this person? How are they doing? How are they dealing with this? Like, is there something we can be doing? And the university, we have a mental health, mental performance team that can help us as well, that we at times will use and facilitate with them. But a lot of times it's just kind of the day-to-day grind, and you guys, you all go through a lot. I don't think if there's one thing I think people don't understand is that, like, especially in the current time, like, yes, student athletes have it really good now. Like, I think it's a great opportunity, but how much of the student athlete's day is just regimented, and there's nothing they can do about it. Like, you have to be here at this time and here at this time, and then there's class, and then there's
the
this,
whole
and
day
there's
is like that, basically.
Yeah, it's basically,
even off days,
7 a.m., 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. You're regimented in some capacity, and then you have these these, and again, nobody's going to feel sorry for the opportunity to make money at these NIL shoots and things, but at the end of the day, it's still time that it's still things you have to be required. So, being able to take a step back sometimes and just like, how are you? Like, what do you need? Is there something that I can help with? Or do you just need a moment to vent, kind of thing? So that those opportunities, you need to take advantage of them to be able to help the student athlete.
Absolutely. And that goes back to building that rapport as well. People take account to when they're asked how they're doing. I mean, it's a little thing, but it goes a long way for sure. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about Virginia. Okay. And that's when you said that you really sharpened yourself as an athletic trainer. I just want to talk about some of your specific memories from that time in an SEC program. I mean, you were at
ACC.
Sorry.
No, you're okay.
An ACC program. This was, I mean, you're in a Power 5 conference now. Things get it's a bigger boat now. Talked about that experience and how you handled that transition.
I'll be honest, the first 2 weeks of that job, I was like, did I do the right thing? Like, do I need to go back to Campbell? And then everything worked out. But it's just a different level of expectation. It's a different level of resource. It's a different level of, okay, how do we handle this? And so, you for years at Campbell, like, you made do with what you had. And okay, if you didn't have the resources, then you figured something out to do. But then you get to Virginia, and it's like, no, we've got the resources, we've got the people, we've got the manpower, we have the access to things. now you have to get better in being able to use these things because the expectations are higher.
Right.
So that was a unique part of it. I was used to, in my Campbell days, we'd have to take a school car and drive 45 minutes to go see an orthopedic doctor or go get an MRI or, anything of that nature. And then I'm at Virginia and they're like, okay, well, it's, a mile and a half that way. You can be there at 3:30 kind of thing, and get it done. And, it's even more so even here, that level of the example I always give is there was a certain student athlete that had an injury in a game at like 1:00 on a Sunday, and we were in the MRI tube getting our images and had our results by 5:36 that night.
That's just unheard of.
Yes, and so like that's like when you with that level of resource and availability, you're thankful for it, but then you've got to up your game a little bit to make sure you're matching that level of resource.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so at Virginia, the ability to still go pick other people's brains, and there it's less like there were a couple different training rooms, but you still I would intentionally leave the basketball facility because we were siloed off, but it was just across the street. So I would leave the basketball facility during the day when I had time and just go sit in the other training rooms, one, to continue to develop those relationships and have friendships with the other athletic trainers and the people that I met. But you use that opportunity to, again, hey, what are you doing? How are you handling this rehab? How are you handling this injury? What else do you think I could be doing? And just picking people's brains to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How long did you end up staying at Virginia?
It was 3 seasons and almost 3 full years. So it was like the fall of 16, like October of 16 until July-ish of 19.
Mm-hmm. And what led you to leave Virginia? If that's not too sensitive
no,
of
it's
a
not too
question.
sensitive. This is actually the perfect kind of, this is my, like, when I talk to other athletic trainers and other professionals, this is my anecdote example, whatever the word is you want to use, of, like, be ready, but a lot of times it's just who you know and right place, right time.
I love this story. I've heard this.
Yeah, so I was at Virginia, happy in Charlottesville, happy in Virginia, not had any intention of leaving. And I was just happened to be in the training room in the end of May for end of season, like end of fall, end of spring, maybe it might have even been start of summer workouts. And my boss, Ethan, his wife, Sue, comes in the training room because her and her son, who's an Eagle Scout, Sammy, were going on a hike in New Mexico. And she needed to grab some supplies for the hike. Well, the fun thing about Sue is that Sue is also an athletic trainer and has been a professor at UVA for many years, but in the early 90s was the athletic trainer for Virginia women's basketball. So she was Coach Staley's athletic trainer. And so Sue just comes in the door and is just nonchalant, shooting the breeze, talking, and she goes, "Hey, by the way, Dawn is looking for an AT if you know anybody that's looking for a job." And I stop. I'm like, oh, and I tell her, I say, okay, sure, like I'll pass the word along. And then I stop, and I'm like, National Powerhouse has won a national title, closer to home.
Dawn
SEC,
Staley.
Dawn Staley. What if I want to apply? And Sue is like, oh, well, yeah, like, just let us know, and Ethan and I will call her. And I sent my resume into my boss, John Kasich here, and I think not even 2 weeks later, I had the job and I was moving.
It's crazy.
It was insane. Like the timeline was just, it was like
instant.
That. I looked up and I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And again, like I kind of knew what I was getting into. I knew the level of medical care because Virginia had that. But stepping into the Coach Staley world and the South Carolina women's basketball world, I don't know if I was really ready for it. And, I knew there was going to be success. I didn't know what I was stepping into. Like, I don't think anybody could predict that.
No, absolutely not. I don't think any of us did, really, when we joined the program. I mean, we knew what we were getting into as far as the history of the school and the things that we've accomplished as a program, but I couldn't say that I expected us to do what we did in my 4 years.
Not at all. I still remember the first trip that we took your freshman year when we went to the Virgin Islands and played in that tournament. It was Aaliyah's homecoming.
Yep.
We won the tournament, thankfully, to CJ figuring out we needed the
point margin, yes.
The point margin. But I remember when we won and we're celebrating and everybody's dancing on the court and they have the trophy for winning, I had a moment. And when we finally went to the back, I told Coach in the back, I said, I just want to thank you. And she said, for what? I go, I've never won anything in my basketball career. I had one conference championship from field hockey and some conference championships and some, NCAA things with the individual runners at Campbell. But basketball wise, we had been fine, but not this. And this tournament in the Virgin Islands was the first trophy, the first thing I ever won. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me like I had 3 heads. And she's like, wait, really? I'm like, well, yeah, coming from an Olympian and who
right,
you were, no, I've never won anything. And so that, I remember that Virgin Islands tournament. I was like, holy cow, is this what this is about to be? And then 32-1 later, and 6 years later, yeah.
Crazy. You got a ring for every finger now, don't you?
At least. I think I could do one for every finger. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. That's so cool.
It's pretty ridiculous.
So what were some of your first impressions of us? Of the oh, God.
No, I mean, you guys were, we
were a dream.
You were, honestly, because it was just, again, I didn't look at it any different than just another set of players. Again, I had no other expectations. I didn't know that Aaliyah was going to be who Aaliyah was. I didn't know who you and Zaya and LA and Bree and Destiny, I didn't, Henny, and I didn't know.
Right.
Camilla coming in, it took a while to be able to realize and kind of, and Molly probably make fun of me and say I'm still not fully up on understanding where I am and all this, but it's basketball, but I didn't realize it was like this. Mm-hmm. And so, that part of it and kind of the notoriety and getting recognized around town has been really, really weird. Mm-hmm. One of the first dates that my girlfriend and I took, we went to a small little taco shop, and we were just sitting there eating minor business, but I'd come from work and was in my gear.
You're always in your gear.
I know. Well, look, you're lucky I don't have it today. Uh-huh. And this gentleman just walks by us, and he saw the gear, and he started talking about basketball and all this, and then all of a sudden, you saw a light bulb click on. He's like, wait, you're that guy. And I was just like, and thank God my girlfriend has a good sense of humor. She just, without a beat, she looks at him and goes, well, do you know who I am? And he goes, and she goes, oh, I'm just messing with you. You're not supposed to know who I am. And so, just that kind of thing, or the fams, this right here, I don't know if you can see it. Someone made you a
little friendship bracelet,
charm bracelets, and sent them to the office. It's
that's so cute.
It's so cute. I love it, but it's just what
this clout that you have that you
it makes no sense to me. So I don't know if I'm ever gonna get used to that part, because I'm and everybody's you're doing a great job. I'm good. If you see me not doing anything on the sidelines, that means things are good.
Things are good.
Don't want to see me working.
Yeah, and I think that's something I would like to transition into is you don't have to do a whole lot. Knock on wood, of course, but you guys, you and Molly specifically, you, Molly, and Jeremy do such a good job of injury prevention, making sure that we are taking care of ourselves, that we are rehabbing properly to such a degree that we're not a team that's, again, knock on wood, plagued by injuries. Of course, we've had our moments. We've had some difficult times. We've had players get hurt, of course. Every program does. But y'all's dedication and care has gotten us very far. What would you say that the quote-unquote secret sauce is for between you and Molly to keep everybody healthy?
Here's what I'll say. I think there's a lot of parts to it, and it's kind of a loaded question. I think first and foremost, you all, as in student athletes, the players, we get a caliber of player here that wants to be a pro and wants to work hard and wants to take this seriously. And obviously there's some fine tuning and things we have to work on, but ultimately, when you have somebody in the program that wants to get better and sees that end goal of wanting to play professionally, they take it a little more seriously, and they also at times will work harder on things to take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. And also sometimes, not a knock on them, but at other places I've been, when basketball is not the end game, it's kind of the means to the educational end. Mm-hmm. They're not as inclined to work through certain injuries that may be manageable to go through, but ultimately, why am I going to bust my tail for that? So I think that's part of it. You guys are a big part of it. Like the athletes are a big part of it. I think a lot of it, I will personally, and I will say it till the cows come home, that Molly is the best in the business. Molly Benetti is the best sport performance strength conditioning coach in the business, men's, women's basketball, otherwise.
Period.
Yeah. End of conversation.
Yep.
And so the ability for me to work in synergy and adjunct with her, and to be able, and with coach, and with Jeremy as well, but also with coach, of understanding where players are and being able to meet them where they are, I think is very beneficial. So it's an ability to, okay, here's what this person needs. Need what we've kind of figured out we need to be doing. How can we address it in the weight room? How can we address it in the training room? What other additional needs do they need to be doing? How else can we address it? Like, I think there's a lot of those moving parts to it, but I think that's kind of the bulk of it, is the ability of us to look at all the players we have and individualize their programs, but also just individualize their needs and address them to keep them healthy.
Absolutely. What sort of challenges have you faced during your time at South Carolina, without disclosing too much?
I mean, there's just been, and some of them are documented publicly, but you deal with the various injuries, and some more difficult than others. The mental health aspect is always tough, and especially unique in I sound old, but like y'all's generation, because I feel like there's so much. Everybody lives their lives through a lens of what looks perfect on social media, and through no fault of it, like it's the reality of the way it is.
Yeah,
it is. But that affects things too. So like the amount of, and Molly could always speak more to this, but like the amount of, well, I saw this TikTok fad or this TikTok trend of this detox or this weight loss thing or this program that I want to do, or like I said earlier, this medical thing or this recovery thing. Like, it's coming from them at all angles. And and I think even more with the NIL now, if the agents are bringing them, we've got this product that wants to do this, and so I think it's just tough to siphon through all of that, and having to be able to help guide them through it and still be able to take care of them, I think is hard. It's a hard challenge and a unique challenge right now. And again, taking a phrase from Coach and from Molly, like meeting them where they are. Like, how can I get through to you when you have 97 other distractions going on from your agent, from your significant other, from this NIL thing you have to do, hair, nails, like whatever. Like, you got all these things you got to take care of.
Right.
But I need you for, this amount of time to take care of this, so that this doesn't become a bigger problem down the road to where you're potentially missing time. Another
reason why building that trust and rapport is extremely important, having them, being able to reel them in from what they're seeing everywhere else and grounding them and saying, hey, like, not to be like, I'm the professional, but at the same time, you know what you're talking about. Yeah. And on the flip side, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
I think it falls in line with the story earlier of like just seeing the growth, like seeing Breezy graduate the other day.
I know.
Seeing Pal graduate, Camilla when she left last year. When your class left, obviously that was a big one just because of the volume and the time we'd all spent together. But like being able to check in with everybody after they're done with basketball and still have that relationship and see how they're doing, being able to, call somebody like you or Aaliyah or Bree and give them, heck about something and, still kind of have those good conversations. And when they come into town, you welcome them back because it's part of the family. It's part of the community. I think that's been very rewarding. And I think it's rewarding to see how the fams and the fan base rallies around Coach and the players, and like it just, and kind of shield and protect. I think that part is unique to us and maybe a very few other programs, and I think it's kind of cool to see that like live as it's happening for us here.
Exactly. No, I absolutely agree. Well, I know we got to wrap things up soon, but I've had a great time having you on. And before you leave, I have 2 questions I want to ask.
Okay.
The first is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received, or what is a piece of advice you would like to share with others?
This is the first question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, it's 2 questions in one,
okay.
but
I just make sure. I think it goes back to the professional, like the relationship part. And I was always told that you need to be good at your job. You need to be prepared. You need to be ready. But at the end of the day, like, it's the people you know and the people that know you and who you are that will benefit you the best long term in your career. And I think that's professional, but also just life advice. Like the people that I still communicate with and talk to and run into, who I worked with at Campbell, I worked with at Delaware, I worked with at UVA, who are now at all these different places, or, I get all these young professionals that reach out now that, I met one in Fort Worth when we played TCU the other weekend, who I've never met her in my life, but she had heard about me and seen about me and just cold reached out in a DM on Instagram after following me for a while and was like, can I just come pick your brain and just ask you questions about the profession? Like, and at some level, like, obviously that's flattering. And I was like, well, you want to pick my brain? Why? Like, but like that ability.
Too humble. You're too humble,
but again,
Craig.
Building that relationship with her, like now I have this connection and now she has that connection. Like being able to build those with people is, I think, immeasurable and invaluable.
Exactly. I think it is very important to be curious and try to take in as much as you can, talk to people, ask them questions, because it does go a long way, not just from you learning information, but like you said, making those connections and those connections transferring so many different directions within your life. You just never know. So I think it is definitely important to talk to whoever you can and make good relationships with people. The second question is, if you weren't an athletic trainer, what would you be doing?
The old answer would have been an ER doc. That's probably not the answer anymore. Honestly, at this point, I'd probably either work at a brewery or at a distillery. Sitting at the bar chatting with folks kind of thing. That'd probably be it at this point. My mother probably don't want to hear that, but that'd probably be what it is. Well,
Craig, I've had a great time having you on. Thank you again. And
course.
Best of luck with the rest of your season. I'm really excited to see y'all kill it as always. And, best of luck.
Appreciate you having me on.
Love ya.